Hi, I'm Matthew Lapp, host of Matthew Lapp Train Guy segment show. Also today in this segment, I'm at the Chicago History Museum in Chicago, Illinois. The Chicago History Museum is located on 1601 North Clark Street in Chicago, Illinois, and is open if you check the web for the hours. It is located in the Old Town Triangle neighborhood in South Chicago. The museum began in 1856, which marked 25 years after the city was founded in 1831, and to study and interpret Chicago's history. Originally, it was named the Chicago Historical Society. Much of its early collection was destroyed in the Great Chicago Fire in 1871. After the fire, the society began collecting again. However, the second fire happened in 1874 and again destroyed the collection. The society built a fireproof building and through donations built up its current collection and is now housed in a modern and updated museum building. It was originally known as the Chicago Historical Society. Then in 2006, it was named the Chicago History Museum. Today, the museum mainly focuses on the history of the city of Chicago, on how it all came together for many years. It even features trains such as the original Chicago L car that operated around the transit system in the city many years ago, as well as a Chicago Northwestern steam locomotive, which is the first steam locomotive to enter the city as well. What you see right behind me is Chicago Northwestern 4. Chicago and Northwestern 4 was built by Baldwin in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 1837 and is the 184th steam locomotive built by that factory and is a 420 Jervis type steam locomotive. Also, the locomotive is named Pioneer. Originally, it was built for the Utica and Schenectady Railroad in New York State, which was the subsidiary of the New York Central Railroad, and the locomotive was numbered 4 for that railroad and was originally named Alert. In 1846, it was sold to the Michigan Central Railroad and it was added with the cabin tender. Then in 1848, it was then sold to the Glen and Chicago Union Railroad, a predecessor of the Chicago Northwestern Railroad. The locomotive was shipped to Chicago by schooner and arrived in October that year. This was the first steam locomotive to operate in the city of Chicago, Illinois as well. It hauled the first train westbound out of the city. It was then renamed Pioneer. It was used there until 1850 when it was loaned to the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy Railroad to work in and around the city. Then it was soon returned to the Galena and Chicago Union Railroad. The Galena and Chicago Union Railroad then merged to become the Chicago Northwestern Railroad in 1864. It then made an appearance at the 1893 Columbian Exposition in Chicago, then at the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis, Missouri, then at the 1933 to 1934 Century of Progress Exposition in Chicago, then at the Chicago Railroad Fair in 1948, then at the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago. In 1972, it was donated to the Chicago History Museum in Chicago, Illinois, and can be found on the second floor in the museum as well. Also, there is a rumor that the tender is stored somewhere in Villa Park, Illinois, and the coach that it pulled might have possibly disappeared out of nowhere, but there is a replica of it in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Today, it is preserved here at the Chicago History Museum in Chicago, Illinois, and it is the oldest steam locomotive in the state as well. What you see right behind me is Southside Rapid Transit 1. Southside Rapid Transit 1 was built by Jackson and Sharp Car Company in Wilmington, Delaware in 1892 and is an elevated car. This car was used on the elevated railroads in the city of Chicago many years ago. This car was the first car to be used on the system. It hauled passengers around Chicago from station to station, and the car spent its life being used on the elevated railroads in the city of Chicago many years ago. It was not powered, but it would be hauled by steam locomotives on the system. It was used to carry passengers to the World's Columbian Exposition that was held in Jackson Park. The car's interiors were paneled in mahogany and were heated with steam supplied by the locomotive's boiler. Interior lighting was provided by burning gas, which was stored in tanks under the car's floors. It was one of 120 cars equipped with electric traction motors and controls when the South Side electrified operations in 1898. It also featured the world's first multiple unit control system, where a motorman in the head car operates the motors under each car in a train with a master controller. In 1913, the name was soon changed to Chicago Elevated Railway, and the car kept the number. Then in 1924, it was then used by the Chicago Rapid Transit and again kept the number. In 1930, it was put in storage. In 1959, it was partially restored to its early 1900s appearance, retaining the inside motorman's cab and original seating, and again kept the configuration. It was then acquired by the Chicago History Museum in Chicago, Illinois in 2005. It was then moved inside the building and had to be lifted in the air and rolled into its position where it is in today, and can be found on the second floor as well. Also, it is the oldest surviving member of all the rapid transit cars used on the rail transit system in Chicago, and is preserved here at the Chicago History Museum in Chicago, Illinois. Well, I hope you all enjoyed learning about trains with me today in Matthew Lap Train Guy segment show. Also, I hope to see you all again in the next segment. And if you didn't subscribe to my channel yet, the subscribe button is just down below the video screen. And also, be sure to give my Facebook page a like yet. Here's where you'll want to go. And if you didn't give the Instagram page a like yet, here's where you'll want to go as well. Also, don't forget to buy your merch at teesprings.com if you're interested. Link is in the description box below, along with Facebook and Instagram. And remember to subscribe to the Train Guy. So this is Matthew Lapp, host of Matthew Lapp Train Guy segment show. Sign out until next time. All aboard.